Welcome back to Mark Carney's book club, where I'm going through this big book so that you don't have to ahead of the Canadian election on April 28th. So far, I have posted a chapter a day, but the material is getting even more dense and the chapters are getting longer, and I'm having a hard time fitting all of the information into one video per chapter. I am a CPA with a CPA firm, and it's tax time and year end and all that. So I am going to probably split the future chapters into two different parts. We're going to do the first part of chapter 6 today. Chapter 6 is the last chapter in part 1 of the book, which is The Rise of the Market Society. And chapter 6 is called The Market Society and the Value of Nothing. In economics, the combination of subjective value and marginalism changed the perceptions of value from the intrinsic characteristics of a good or service to its exchange value, its price in the market. Today, this economic approach to value has spread widely. Market value is taken to represent intrinsic value, and if a good or activity is not in the market, it is not valued. What impact will this have on the values of society, its ability to create value, and more precisely, to improve the welfare of its citizens? Carney talks about how market based economies have relied on a basic social contract comprised of three factors. First, being the relative equality of outcomes, the second, being the general equality of opportunity, and the third, being fairness across generations. He says that different societies place different weights on these different elements, but few societies omit any of them altogether. Societies will aspire to this trinity of elements for at least three reasons. First is that relative equality is good for growth. The more equal societies are, the more resilient they are. And he cites an OECD study, which took place between 1970 and 2010, which found that inequality had a statistically significant negative impact on economic growth. The second reason why the social contract is so important is that inequality is an important determinant of relative happiness, and that a sense of community is a critical determinant of well being. Most important contributors to whether people are flourishing and enjoying their lives and feeling fulfilled are their mental and physical health, the quality of their human relationships, the sense of community, their work, their incomes, and the general social climate, including freedom, quality of government, and peace, etc. The relationship between income and happiness is complicated. Although it is less important than community and mental and physical health, absolute and relative income are still significant. More importantly, it's nonlinear in that above a certain threshold, about 75,000 in the US, more money doesn't make people happier. But a little bit extra money to the least well off can make a significant difference to the individual's happiness and society's aggregate welfare. Third reason why those factors of the social contracts are so important is that inclusive capitalism appeals to a fundamental sense of justice. The American philosopher John Rawls conducted a thought experiment by asking people what type of society they would construct if their choice were made behind a veil of ignorance about their place in it. He settled on a version of the Golden Rule that can be found at the heart of many of the world's religions. Do unto others as you would wish to have done to yourself. The result of focusing on maximizing net monetary benefits, equating money with value, is contrary to net welfare benefits. Carney discusses new approaches to welfare that aim to reverse the trend where the pursuit of happiness has become equated with the pursuit of prosperity. The market is a social construct that requires the right institutions, a supportive culture, and the maintenance of social license. If left unattended or allowed to capture the political sphere, the market will corrode those values essential to its effectiveness. To be inclusive, economic institutions must include secure private property, an unbiased system of law, and the public services that provide a level playing field in which people can exchange and contract. Education must be both of high quality and open to all, and people must be able to choose their own careers and be free to open new businesses. Social capital refers to the links, shared values, and beliefs in a society which encourage individuals not only to take responsibility for themselves and their families, but also to trust each other and work collaboratively to support each other. Social capital is the product of both institutions and culture. So the next section in this chapter is called The Shifting Balance Between States and Markets. He says that the institutions and culture of the state have become increasingly pro-market, particularly in the determination of value, with profound implications for both competitiveness and welfare. So Carney speaks of how the Thatcher Reagan revolution fundamentally shifted the dividing line between markets and governments. The reforms of the time, such as lifting administrative controls and privatizing large parts of the state. Productivity did pick up and aggregate incomes rose, but inequality also soared and values changed. He speaks of the commodification of pretty much everything and says that while this greater commodification has made our lives better in many cases, it has often weakened personal ties and undermined social and civic values. The change in personal and civic relations is drawing on social capital and altering the social contract. The question is whether we will reach Milanovich's predicted endpoint of a utopia of wealth and a dystopia of personal relations. So, this growing sense that we all have that the basic social contract is breaking down is backed by hard data. And within almost all societies, inequality of outcomes, both within and across generations, has increased. The big drivers of technology and globalization are magnifying market distributions. Technology's impact on inequality is felt across all economies, while globalization's contribution is principally felt in advanced economies. Moreover, returns in a globalized world are amplifying the rewards of the superstar, and though few of them would be inclined to admit it, the lucky. Intergenerational equity is similarly strained across the advanced world. Social welfare systems designed and enjoyed by previous generations will prove, absent reform, unaffordable for future ones. He claims that unchecked market fundamentalism devours the social capital essential for the long term dynamism of capitalism itself. He highlights that the financial crisis strained our trust in the financial systems, pointing out that major banks were deemed too big to fail, operating in a privileged heads I win, tails you lose bubble. There was widespread rigging of market benchmarks for personal gain, and equity markets demonstrated a perverse sense of fairness, blatantly favoring the technologically empowered over the retail investor. All right, so that is the first half of chapter 6 in Mark Carney's Values. Stay tuned tomorrow and we will go through the second half.